Obama administration is ramping up plans to punish Russia for interfering in the election as President-elect Trump ramps up rhetoric over what he calls roadblocks from President Obama. All this with just 23 days to go until the inauguration. Correspondent Kevin Cork is traveling with President Obama in Hawaii and reports tonight from Honolulu.
A parting shot at Putin. That's what some are calling the White House's decision to hit the Russians with a new wave of economic sanctions for cyber hacking during the run-up to the 2016 U.S. election. Sources tell Fox News that punishment could come as soon as Thursday, though some GOP lawmakers are questioning the timing of the administration's decision.
Here's what I would prefer. Let the new Congress and the new president deal with Russia, pass new sanctions much tougher than the ones we already have.
It's the latest in a series of major moves by President Obama, who's just weeks away from leaving office, but has remained aggressive during the lame duck period. From barring states from denying federal money to Planned Parenthood, to a permanent ban on energy development in parts of the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans, and scrapping a dormant registry for male immigrants from a list of largely Muslim countries. Analysts believe this is just the sort of late flurry that critics were worried about.
The only reason to destroy those regulations is to delay any effort of President Trump in carrying out his campaign promises. It's something like General Sherman burning his way through the South and leaving nothing but scorched earth in his path.
Turley further explained the new sanctions against Moscow could paint President-elect Trump into an uneasy corner. Undo the heavy-handed sanctions and be seen as Putin's puppet, or leave them in place and sting the Kremlin just when it was believed a diplomatic thaw might be in the offing. Mr. Trump has certainly noticed the president's shift in both tone and action, tweeting, "Doing my best to disregard the many inflammatory President O statements and roadblocks. Thought it was going to be a smooth transition. Not."
With respect to the transition, I think they would be the first to acknowledge that we have done everything we can to make sure that they are successful, as I promised.
A broken promise, say experts, that the president-elect ultimately will have to clean up. No surprise, Doug, the Russians wasted little time in reacting to the news of a possible new round of sanctions that could be headed their way. The Kremlin saying simply they would retaliate against Washington, with a foreign ministry spokeswoman saying this whole episode has been orchestrated by the White House, calling it a provocation directed from the very top. Doug?
Kevin Cork in Honolulu tonight with President. Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Eric Bolling in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Let's dive right into our top story, the feud erupting between Donald Trump and President Obama. Critics say the president took a thinly veiled shot at Mr. Trump yesterday when he said this.
Even when hatred burns hottest, even when the tug of tribalism is at its most primal, we must resist the urge to turn inward. We must resist the urge to demonize those who are different.
President-elect Donald Trump responded with a tweet this morning saying, quote, "Doing my best to disregard the many inflammatory President O statements and roadblocks. Thought it was going to be a smooth transition. Not," unquote. The question now, is President Obama obstructing a smooth presidential transition? Joining us now from Washington with reaction, Matthew Miller, a former Justice Department spokesman in the Obama administration, and Brad Blakeman, a Republican strategist. Matt, I'm going to start with you. You know, the smooth transition of power in the presidential level is what distinguishes democracies from banana republics. It's very important, yet President Obama seems to be wanting to put a little bit of a roadblock in between the smooth transition.
Well, I would disagree with that. If you look at what the president said yesterday, it's in keeping with everything he said throughout his political career, that we are at our strongest as a nation when we work together, when we put aside our political differences, and when we don't demonize each other. And in fact, those are the type of remarks you've heard from presidents of both parties really throughout our history. I think the fact that Donald Trump saw those statements and felt that they were an attack on him, a plea that we don't demonize each other. He thought it was a personal attack.
Even when hatred burns hottest.
Yeah.
What was that a reference to?
Well, I think it was a reference to Americans. It was a plea from the president to every American to not demonize each other and to try to work together. And I think the fact that Trump sees that as an attack on him really says more about Trump and the kind of politics that he practices than it does about President Obama.
Brad, do you agree with Matt that this was not a thinly veiled shot? I mean, it doesn't even look that thinly veiled. And basically, over the last couple of weeks, we've heard President Obama take a few shots at President-elect Donald Trump, including, "I would have beat him if I ran again."
Sure. I mean, this is calculated at delegitimizing the fair and free election that Donald Trump won. Look, Barack Obama can't come to terms with the fact that a rebuke of Hillary was a rebuke of him. 8 years of failed policy. The president went on the road and pleaded with people to vote for Hillary because it would be a reflection on him, and he just can't accept it. But I'll tell you this, Donald Trump has been working every day for a smooth transition of power. Barack Obama has not. He has not done it. We've seen it with Israel. Instead of winding down policy, he's ginning up bad policy, trying to rule from the grave when Donald Trump takes office. It's unfair to the country. It's unfair to the new president.
Yeah, what about it, Matt? So President Obama has 23 days left in office, and he seems to be still continuing with policy initiatives.
Of course he is. He was elected to a term of 4 years, not 3 years and 11 months. And till January 20th, when he's no longer the president, it's his obligation to carry out policies that he sees fit. He's done that with respect to international relations, and he'll continue to do it for domestic policy.
That directly contradict what the policies of a president-elect Donald Trump will want to institute when he gets into office? Does it make sense to start with these policy initiatives now with 23 days left before he leaves?
Sure. If President-elect Trump wants to reverse some of these policies or take the country in a new direction when he's president, that is absolutely within his right. But until he becomes president, President Obama still has the obligation to carry out his duties as he sees fit. And it's natural that he would do it, and I expect him to continue to do it between now and January 20th.
And Brad, what is this about? Is this about Obama legacy?
Yeah, it is. It is about encumbering the incoming president. It's tying his hands, and it's embarrassing this president. Donald Trump is being given the ability to start his presidency without having to undo more of Obama's feckless policy. And also, we have to remind this. Obama's first priority right now in the transition period is a smooth transition of government. That should be taking up all his time, but it's not. And he's sending also a message to others who are supposed to be working on a smooth transition that let's not do what we should be doing for Donald Trump. Let him fend for himself when he takes office. Because if you believe what Matt says, that a smooth transition isn't necessary because Obama's policies trump that.
It is. It's the only thing that separates us from lesser democracies, as I said earlier. Matt, let me ask you this. I'm going to posit this. I think President Obama is diverting from what his legacy will be right now. As it is right now, he will have overseen the mortal destruction of the Democrat Party. So if he puts up all these initiatives, the UN resolution, the sanctions against Russia, maybe we'll forget that the Democrats have basically fallen apart over the last 8 years.
I don't think that's what he's overseeing. Obviously, we lost this election. It happens. We're going to go back and work and try to learn some lessons and come back stronger. I did want to address what Brad said about the transition. Even the Trump transition has said that at an operational level, the Obama administration has worked very hard to brief their successors on policy, to hand over things smoothly. That's happening. If there is one side that continues to cross the line, it in fact is the Trump transition, which is delving into foreign policy when he's actually not the president, and that responsibility still lies with President Obama.
All right. Brad, I think President Obama got his clock cleaned. I think the Democrats did. But so does Lindsey Graham. Listen to what he had to say on Putin, Russia, and Obama. Listen.
When it comes to Obama and Putin has cleaned his clock. In terms of Obama taking action, I don't think it'll do any good. The bottom line is you need to hit Russia in a sustained fashion. So if Obama tries to do something going out the door that's not sustained, then you send the wrong signal. If I were President Trump, I would call President Obama and say, don't start something that you can't finish. Let Trump and the new Congress do this.
And now, Brad, what we're talking about is President Obama this morning promised to administer sanctions. Well, actually, this morning he said there was going to be punishment to Russia. We waited all day, and this afternoon we hear there'll be some sort of stepped-up sanctions against Russia. Again, 23 days left before he leaves office, sanctioning Russia. Your thoughts?
This is crazy. It's another bogus line in the sand. And by the way, Putin's laughing up his sleeve. You have the lamest of duck presidents who he's had no relationship with, and as Lindsey Graham properly pointed out, cleaned his clock the last 8 years. You think anything that this guy does is going to have any effect on Russia? And by the way, it's up to the new Congress and the new president to deal with Russia effectively, starting a new relationship from strength, not weakness. And that's exactly the weak point that Obama is putting in Trump's lap.
Yeah, Matt, do you think President Putin is I don't know. You think he's nervous? He put his shirt on, get off the horse. He said, "Oh, I'm going to get some sanctions slapped on me by President Obama, who's 23 days left in office."
Well, let's see what the sanctions look like. Here's the problem that we face right now.
Yeah, but so what can they do? If they're toothless sanctions, it doesn't matter anyway. So what's this all about?
We don't know yet whether they're toothless or not. They might directly sanction Putin himself, who we know has stored billions of dollars in accounts outside of Russia.
Do you think?
But
do you honestly stand here on the factor tonight at 8:07 or so and say that President Obama is going to sanction Vladimir Putin directly?
I don't think we know. I think we'll find out tomorrow. It might be him. It might be people close to him. But we do know that the sanctions in the past, Putin has reacted very strongly to them. But here's the problem. The reason President Obama has to do this is we cannot trust President Trump when he takes office to punish Russia. Remember what he did during the campaign. He encouraged Vladimir Putin to
the American people trusted him enough to elect him. That's the point.
That doesn't mean that everything he did was above board. He encouraged Vladimir Putin to hack into the Clinton campaign's emails. The Russian government did that and released those emails. You now have a president who's been elected with the help of a foreign government, a foreign dictator.
How do you help? Can you put him on? This is a left talk. This is the left talking point. Tell us how he helped.
He helped by hacking into the Clinton campaign's emails, by turning those emails over to WikiLeaks to discover truth. I'm glad to see that you support a foreign government hacking into the U.S. political process.
But Matt, you're not concerned with the truth. Let's say the Russians did uncover on Hillary Clinton that we would have never known but for their actions. I'm not suggesting they did the right thing. I'm not suggesting they did it at all.
I got to go hot debate. And again, Matthew, we're still waiting to see that evidence. Just waiting to see some evidence. Matthew, Brad, thank you very much.